Hi everyone, good morning. It's wonderful to meet you guys. Welcome to our webinar. Good morning, and I hope everyone is having a great day. Welcome to Microsoft Fabric in action, from onboarding to real-world impact. Today we're going to walk through how organizations can adopt and scale modern analytics using Microsoft Fabric. Let's meet the presenting team for today. So my name is Josiah Joel. I'm a young Microsoft certified data analyst. And together I have Jade Ganga joining me here today. She's our data engineer. As Daniel already said, what you'll be walking away with today is the common pain points of not consolidating your data, clear understanding of Microsoft Fabric, a real deployment example, and lastly, an adoption roadmap as well as pricing and the next steps. This session is primarily designed for technical and operational roles within organizations. That includes IT managers responsible for data infrastructure, data engineers who build pipelines, BI developers working with reporting platforms, and analysts who support enterprise-level reporting environments. Today, we'll focus heavily on the architecture, governance, and operational considerations. So that brings us to the key question we want to address in this webinar. Why are so many IT teams consolidating their analytics platforms? The typical modern data analytics stack, we usually see several different systems working together, all in a complete well-oiled machine, right? Data might be stored in a SQL database, ingested through different tools, stored again in data lakes, and consumed by multiple different reporting tools or data science notebooks. Each of these systems may have its own security configuration, monitoring tools, and its own operational costs. IT teams frequently report several recurring challenges. They must maintain multiple pipelines across systems. Data often exists in duplicates across storage environments. Often security configurations can differ from one platform to the other. Beyond the technical complexity, there are also hidden operational costs. Organizations may pay for multiple services, each with its own pricing model, while also spending significant time managing integrations between them. Another common challenge is siloed reporting. When data transformations are duplicated across teams, it's very difficult to ensure that everyone is working with the same numbers and the same source of truth. Organizations also need to control who can access their data, how they can track how it's used, maintain a clear data lineage, and manage those requirements across multiple disconnected platforms. That can be very difficult when you're using multiple platforms, right? Each system may have different security models, audit capabilities, and governance tools. The bottom line when we really look at it is that all these challenges together have an underlying theme, and that is fragmentation. Multiple tools, multiple storage layers, and multiple governance systems all increase operational overhead and risk. So the natural question that comes from this, what would it look like if all of the capabilities you need for data was brought together in a single platform designed to work as one integrated system? Davin is proud to introduce Microsoft Fabric as a powerful step in modern data and analytics. Microsoft brings the data engineering, warehousing, data science, and business intelligence together into one unified platform, removing the complexity of managing multiple disconnected tools with a single, secure foundation operating through the one lake and seamless integration with Power BI. Organizations can move from raw to ready in less than ever before. This means fewer silos, stronger governance, and lower operational overhead, and dramatically improving collaboration between IT and business teams. By introducing Microsoft Fabric, Davin is enabling clients to simplify their architecture, to accelerate innovation, and unlock the full value of their data with confidence and control. So Microsoft Fabric includes several workloads. So let's break it down a little bit. Data engineers can ingest and transform data. Analysts can build semantic models and dashboards. Data scientists can use notebooks and build machine learning models. And all of these workloads are designed to operate together rather than isolated services. That integration is one of the core advantages of the platform. Microsoft Fabric is not just the future, it is the present. It is what the best and most profitable companies use right now. Actually, 70% of the Fortune 500 companies have already adopted Fabric, according to the official Fabric blog on VentureBeat Capital. Fabric operates entirely on the cloud, and that is using the OneLake. The OneLake is a single logical storage layer behind Fabric. There are no separate storage accounts per service, no copying data between tools. All workloads read from the same source data, from the same source of truth, from the same foundation. Also, imagine you have your entire database just linked to your file explorer in your Windows instead of making some weird big SQL query. Fabric organizes resources through workspaces. A workspace acts as a container where datasets, pipelines, and reports and other assets can be managed together. Role-based access can also be managed via M365 and full integration with Microsoft Purview. Fabric also integrates completely with Power BI, allowing dashboards and reports to be built directly on top of the data and stored in the platform. This simplifies reporting workflows, allowing analytics teams to move from raw to ready within the same environment. So why do IT teams care? For IT teams, the biggest benefit of Fabric is simplification. Instead of managing multiple different services, teams can focus on a unified environment where ingestion, storage, analytics, and reporting are all connected in one. This can reduce the operational overhead, simplify governance, and allow teams to deploy new analytics solutions faster than ever before. Now, I guess it's time for what everyone's been itching for. Let's see it in action. Today, we're going to learn how to create a lakehouse, create a simple data flow. We'll look at semantic models and create them, Power BI dashboards, and of course, Copilot in Power BI. I'd like to introduce our data engineer, Jade, to show us the demo.
Okay, thank you, Josiah, and good morning, everyone. My name is Jade Ganga, and I'll be taking you guys through the demo portion of our webinar. So before we actually get into the demo, can someone please confirm you guys are seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So just a gentle reminder to please feel free to drop any questions you guys may have in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. So let's get started. So this here is our, I think Shauna has a question. Okay, so I'll ask Danielle if she could assist Shauna in the meantime, and I'll just continue.
And just unmute you, Shani.
Okay.
I'm not. Oh, no, she doesn't have one actually. That was an error.
No
So you can go
problem.
ahead.
All right, thank you. So this is our Fabric landing page. And for those of you who already figured it out, I am operating out of my browser. So our Fabric landing page basically tells us welcome to Fabric. It tells us that we can create a new workspace. We can access different workloads. We have access as well to some quick links to documentation that can help us learn a bit more on what Fabric is and what we can do. So I also have a quick access here as well. For our demo, we'll be using a pre-existing or pre-built workspace called Webinar 2026. So I have my workspace open here, and I'm just gonna come into it. So you guys are gonna see we have some pre-built items, and I'll just quickly explain what they are. So we have a lakehouse called Webinar LH, which is this object here. And this was used to store all of our data in one place. We have a data flow called get demo data, which was used to ingest and transform the data that we currently have in our lakehouse. And of course, we have a semantic model and a Power BI report that would have been built using the data stored in our lakehouse. So all of this is existing in Fabric in one workspace, and it would have been done through this one workspace. So the demo aims to take you through the general flow of developing an analytics environment in Fabric. And it's going to be high level, of course. So quickly, I'll show you how you create a lakehouse and how you create a data flow. So you just need to click on new item and it opens up this side panel that gives you access to recent resources or tools, which in my case is a data flow and a lakehouse, as well as all the other categories for the various amounts of tools that you can access depending on what you're trying to do. And yes, the list is quite extensive. So let's get started with our pre-built items. So what I'll do is we'll get started with ingestion and transformation of data. And to do that, we'll be looking at our get demo data flow. So when this loads, it should look familiar to those of you who are used to working in Power BI and Power Query, and that's because data flows Gen 2 through Fabric gives us a Power Query online experience. So we basically can access all of the Power Query tools we usually get with Power BI Desktop through our browser now. So as usual, you can use your data flow to connect to your different data sources, such as Excel files, database systems, even SharePoint folders, which if you all noticed, my budget query, which just loaded its preview, has the applied steps to the right of our screen. And we're seeing my source is actually a SharePoint folder. So let's go to our sales invoices table. So while that's loading, this would have been imported from Excel. So we're demoing different sources of data. So our sales invoices table basically has information about costs and quantities, even the status of an invoice. But let's say we wanted to find out what the expenditure for each of these invoices would have been. As you can see, I don't have an expenditure column, right? So what I'll need to do is I'll need to add a custom column. And to do this, we usually just go to add column. And I should have the option to add a custom column. And when I click on it, you'll see this window appears. So we have the option to manually input our formula, the name of our column, and the data type. But we also have the option to ask Copilot for help. So I'm going to ask Copilot to create a custom column that's called expenditure that evaluates the unit price multiplied by quantity. So Copilot is going to look at our data and it's going to figure out which fields of data that we have in our lakehouse can give us this information. Sorry, not in our lakehouse, in our data flow. So as you can see, Copilot has now named my column expenditure. It chose the unit price field and the quantity field as we requested. And it also has our data type assigned as decimal number. But I would like to change this to be currency. So as you can see, even though Copilot would have generated the formula for me, I can still edit it to suit my needs. So when I click OK here, we should see the expenditure column appearing, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but now we see values have been added for each row of our table. So I'd like to point your direction to the bottom right where I have data destination. So this is really important. And currently my data destination is set as the webinar _ LH Lakehouse, right? And the reason for that is I would like all of the changes, all of the ingestion and transformation activities I've done on this table to be loaded into my webinar lakehouse. You can also set a default destination, which means all of the transformations and activities that you do in here in terms of ingesting data will be automatically assigned to the webinar LH Lakehouse. And of course, if for some reason you wanted to send it to a different location, you have the option to change the destination right over here. So once you've completed all of your ingestion transformation activities, what you do is you come back to home, and here you have the option to save, run, and close. So I'm just going to save and close my data flow, and in some true webinar fabric magic, we're going to go to our webinar lakehouse, and we're going to see all of the queries that we would have had in our data flow. So basically, once this loads, we'll see that all of our data that we ingested and transformed appears in our lakehouse. And just to show you guys, we're going to go to the sales invoices table. And once it loads, we should be seeing our expenditure column to the extreme end. So there we go. We have that. So now that we have clean data, the next step is usually to build a semantic model so that we can build out our reports, right? So to do this, we can do this two ways. You can choose to create a new semantic model by clicking on the option here, or you can switch to your SQL Analytics endpoint. And the SQL Analytics endpoint is especially helpful because not only can we create a semantic model in here, we also have the option to write SQL queries. So we can do new SQL queries, and we can also create views if we need them. So I'm just going to expand my schema so you guys can see all of my data is here. And in order to build my semantic model, I just need to click on the new semantic model option. And it gives me this window that lets me name my semantic model. It lets me assign the workspace that my model will be stored in, as well as the storage mode. And here we have the option to select or deselect the tables we want for our semantic model. So this ties into the point that Josiah would have made about workspaces and permissions. If, for example, you are from a different department, so let's say you are from our sales department, and you have the permissions, you can come in here, access all of our consolidated data, choose the tables that you need for your reporting needs, and you can build out your report. Similarly, someone that is looking at the inventory stock or the employees data, they can also access the same consolidated source, create the semantic model they need, and they can build out their report. And everyone is using the same source of truth. So again, a little more webinar magic. We're going to come back to our workspace, and we're going to go into our semantic model. So when my semantic model opens up, you see I have some information here. But once I click open, I can actually see the layout of my relationships and the different tables that I have in my model. So our model is quite large, and that's because we wanted to show as much information as possible in our report. So right now, this is my viewing mode. If I switch to editing mode, I have the option to add new measures. I can do transformations on the data. I can do new column, new table. And just by the way, a new measure is basically allowing me to write a DAX expression, which allows us to create custom formulae. So without further ado here, let's get into our report now. So I'm going to open up our demo report, and it's just going to load. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, our report illustrates various KPIs across various aspects of the business. So this is my sales overview page. And at a quick glance, I can see what the gross profit would have been. I can see the quantity sold. I can see the revenue generated. I can also see revenue by item category, revenue by salesperson. I can filter to a particular country if I wanted to. I also have sales forecasting information. I have open orders information, which allows me to, let's say, look at a particular salesperson, Jim Olive, perhaps. And I can now see all of the open orders that he has, the actual status assigned to the orders, the revenue, and quantities that those orders would be worth. So I'm just gonna clear this. And we also have information on our item sales. We have employees as well, so we can look at a particular salesperson in even more detail if we wanted to. So as you can see, the point is our report is extensive. It has a lot of information. That is useful, but let's say you were in a meeting with your sales director and he or she asked you a question that, let's say, what was the best selling product in December 2024 based on quantity? So we just went through the report, and the report is quite useful, but it's also very difficult for us to quickly find that answer. So that's where Copilot comes in. And by simply pasting that natural language question, Copilot is now going to look at the underlying data that we have. As you can see, it says checking the underlying data. And it's going to try to run a query that answers our question rather than have us filtering through the report or trying to build a visual on the side in order to find out the answer to this question. And Copilot has now returned my answer. So Copilot says, based on the available data, incandescent nail polish was the best-selling product in December 2024. So we're seeing that it would have been 95 items, well, 95 units of this item would have been sold. So very quickly, we were able to get this answer without having to do any extra work. So I also have the option of asking Copilot about employee performance. So I'm going to ask Copilot which employee generated the most sales by revenue. So again, Copilot is really just looking at that semantic model that we have in the background and all of the data that we have stored so that it can run a query on its own without us having to have the knowledge to do that and return an answer. So it's telling me Otis Falls generated the most sales by revenue with $299,773 in December 2024. So this brings me to the last portion of my demo. So I'm going to go back to our workspace really quick. And I'm going to give you a scenario. So let's say you already have Power BI reports built and they're in use, but you want to be able to access Copilot so that you can ask questions like what I just demoed. The good news is with a Fabric capacity, you can create a Fabric workspace that allows you to access Copilot in your Power BI reports. And all you need to do is publish your existing reports to these Fabric workspaces, and Copilot will be able to access your report and assist you in a similar manner to what I just demoed. So, of course, I don't expect you to just take my word for it. So, I have a pre-built report in Power BI Desktop, and it's a fictional business, don't worry. I'm going to publish it to our webinar 2026 workspace. Yes, I have a lot of workspaces. And once that's published, we're going to go back to our workspace and I'm going to refresh to show you all that my report is now in my Fabric workspace. Okay, so we successfully published. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to refresh my page. Okay, and you see my report and its semantic model has now appeared. So I'm going to quickly open up the report just so you guys can see what it looks like. And let's say, okay, we don't have the time to go through this report in great detail. Let's ask Copilot to give us an executive summary of the report. So we ask Copilot to give an executive summary of the report, and Copilot went through our entire report and it returned quite a summary. So it's telling us that the business would have processed 1,500 total orders. We're seeing that regionally, Bahamas is the top performing country. It's telling us that warehouse operations are large scale. It even gives us the number of packed items versus picked items, the number of warehouses and shifts. It's telling us about the inventory, that it's diversified with 26 brands and 50 products. And it's even telling us about turnover ratio. So that's all well and great, right? So let's give Copilot an interesting question now. So I'm going to ask Copilot, which product categories had an increase in order quantity in 2024? So this is a bit more complex of a question, and the query that Copilot is going to have to generate is going to be a bit more complex. So it may take us a little bit longer to get an answer from Copilot. Okay, that surprisingly did not take that long. So Copilot says, based on the available data, the product categories that had an increase in order quantity in 2024 compared to 2023 are cupboard, drawer, and table. So it also gives us a little table here with the list of the product categories, and it returned the order quantity for 2024 versus 2023. So we can see that there was actually an increase, but I must remind you all, right? It's useful to use AI and Copilot. It's really helpful. It gives us an answer quickly and with minimal effort. But it is crucial that we fact check and verify the answers Copilot returns to make sure that they are correct and we make decisions based on accurate information. In fact, Copilot even warns us that the answer it returned here about the increase in order quantity required more analysis than usual, and it's telling us to check it carefully because AI can make mistakes. So that being said, I thank you for your time and attention. And I will hand you guys back over to Josiah so we can complete our presentation. Josiah?
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that. So you're probably thinking Microsoft Fabric is great. I love what I'm seeing. So how do I get this for myself? So here we have a 90-day plan in which we will outline 3 different steps, the 30 days, 60 days, and in 90 days finally. So in the first 30 days, our goal is exploration and the initial setup. We will typically begin by enabling a trial environment, identifying a small number of data sources, and building a simple proof of concept for your specific organization. By the 60-day mark, next phase, the focus will be shifted towards building a more structured architecture. We will begin implementing layered data models and defining standards for naming, transformations, and security. At this stage, the goal is to move beyond experimentation and start to prepare the platform for real operational workloads. And by the 90-day mark, we are ready to go live with your Microsoft Fabric environment. This typically includes deploying dashboards, monitoring performance, and refining governance policies. It is also the point where we begin training our internal teams and expanding the platform to support even more use cases. When adopting Microsoft Fabric, there's no starting from scratch. Your already talented team can continue to use and excel their skills, such as SQL, Power BI, Python, data modeling tools such as Azure Databricks, and any governance framework. Let's talk about the most important part now, pricing. Here I have a pricing table, and Fabric is provisioned via capacities. I mentioned capacities in chat, but now I'll explain them. Fabric capacities provide the compute power that runs the workloads in Microsoft Fabric, such as data engineering, data warehousing, and Power BI. Fabric capacities control how much processing power, performance has when running analytics and data workloads. Once you own a capacity, you own it for your entire team. You don't need to pay this for every other member. It's not a subscription based per person. You have your capacity, and you can connect it to how many workspaces you want and workloads. And all capacities from F2 above comes with Copilot. Copilot already enabled. There's the pay as you go and the reservation that has the 41% saving. That means reserving for 1 year. I'll talk about the SKUs very lightly here. So in our table, the first 3 rows, the F2 to F8, those are for small workloads. Well, really small, medium, right? Those are mainly for development and testing if you are a big company. And this will be perfect if you are a small, medium business, which most people in the Caribbean are. And for F60 and F32, the fourth and fifth rows, those are for medium workloads and very large businesses, really. And F64 plus is really where we require enterprise workloads, really like maybe hundreds of millions of rows of data. And that's it when it comes to for pricing. Scan the QR code to book a free consultation with us and learn how Davin can champion your fabric journey.